My name is Lisa Stacholy. I'm an architect and I practice in Atlanta. I had been involved in small project practitioners since '97 at convention when I stumbled upon one of their events. I did my stint on the advisory group and have always stayed involved. What I found in terms of the fellowship and the camaraderie aspect is small project practitioners was the best place to have accomplished that. It gave me resources far beyond my local Atlanta area. Didn't really feel like you had competition, etc., but there was always an extra voice. I could pick up a phone and call someone from across the country and say, hey, I've never seen this kind of contract before. Can I share it with you? Can you give me your thoughts on it? So in terms of helping figure out what small firms roundtables are actually going to do for the constituency, what we're trying to accomplish is get a list of what's important to you folks and expanding on a little more of the history and the background, knowing that my particular perspective is from small project practitioners. Work on the journals, work at convention. I still write for the blog. Yes, y'all need to go Google small firms idea. Go take a look at the blog, because up until now, that's been one of the best places we've had to get this kind of information out. What's important, what are we trying to accomplish? SPP and CRAN both have their regular knowledge communities and their constituency. They get information from those constituents in terms of what's important and what are we trying to accomplish. Over the past number of years, SPP has done what we fondly called our top 10 list. And that was, at the end of the day, when the small firm person is going home, what are they thinking about when they're driving? Oh man, I gotta shop for insurance again, I hate that. So the notion is if, knowing the outline that we've just heard in terms of the recommendations and what we're trying to accomplish, that's one of the things that, why are we all banging our head against the wall trying to find those answers? If we have a way to collectively pool what our resources are and what we need to get those answers, I think that's what we need to try to accomplish. A couple other facts of note. 60%, 60% of AIA members are affiliated with firms that have less than 4 people. 60%, that's more than half. If you bump up to 10 people or less, that's 80%, 80% of the AIA membership. That's a huge percentage. That's a real big aspect that my personal perspective, yes, it's kind of been underserved. My work with SPP has been very helpful because that's where I found the value I needed to get in my AIA membership. That's how I decided to go ahead and get involved. So if we're taking a look at, what are these topics that typically come up on the SPP top 10 list? And I see Deb Pierce, who is current chair, and Jim Klein, who is upcoming chair. What are the kinds of things, and there are actually some note cards on the end of each one of the rows. If you do have a particular comment, question, concern, jot it down, hand it up here. We're also going to spend some time speaking about the health insurance program through the AIA Trust, as well as these guys are up here for the panel discussion. Based on the list that Michael had presented, insurance did come up there. I know it's come up in our SPP list as well. We figured that was the biggest, best thing to try to tackle for starters. It's, health insurance in and of itself is, current in the media. We're all acutely aware of the problems and difficulties. Hopefully these guys will be able to speak to the errors and omissions side of it, which is another big factor that a lot of our firms are facing. One of the questions that was just handed up to me, it said, how do we get a human resource manual for small firms? That, just in and of itself, I'm pretty sure there was a journal done 3.5, 4 years ago that was specifically on staffing type issues. How do you organize your staff when you might have 2 20-hour people doing the equivalent of a 40-hour job? So in terms of that entire list, maybe not all of it belongs to Small Firms Task Force. However, the big items that we know we have to deal with, the insurance issue or the contracts issue. Go ahead.
There are a number of knowledge-based issues or issues regarding knowledge that small firms, small project practitioners need, and we try to address that in the journal, which comes out quarterly. It's an electronic document with maybe 8 to 10 articles, and also content seminars at convention. So there are HR issues, how do you know when to grow, how do you hire, fire, attract, motivate, and mentor good staff, questions about marketing and project delivery models, and firm transition planning, bookkeeping systems, accountants, hiring consultants, technical consultants, as well as management consultants. So there's the whole range of questions that I think people have in most firms. But in a small firm, you don't have peers that you can talk to. You don't have, in fact, you know, it's very difficult to talk about fees because of the consent decree. And so small firms, people really need that kind of informal networking and opportunity to share with peers that happens in an office in a bigger firm. And the AIA is, and as well as the chapters, the components, is the one place where that can really happen. And we're trying to deal with that. I think as we look at the difference between what SFRT, the roundtables, are doing and what the SPP is doing, we've kind of come down to feel that the whole knowledge area is something that SPP feels we're in a good position to deliver because we're involved with the convention planning, and we'd like to see regional conferences also all have a track for small firms. We'd like to see everything that AIA does have a place where small firms find their voice and find relevance. And so if there's a conference on the entertainment industry, that there are seminars talking about small projects in the entertainment industry. If there's a conference on religious architecture, that people who do sculptural baptismal fonts and that sort of thing are going to find seminars that are relevant for them. So I just wanted to make a distinction between the content. I think all the things that all of the advisory groups and knowledge communities work on, professional practice, building technology, those are all the concerns of the small firm because many of us really are generalists.
In following up to what she's just said, and that's real helpful, but I got to keep an eye on time for us. One thing that small project practitioners did do is recognizing this need for the local discussion and the local interchange. Kevin Harris from Baton Rouge put together a list of how to start your own local roundtable for small projects. And it's basically, once a year, send a note back in to small project practitioners, get together, have a meeting, and there's a little toolkit on there on how to go about doing that on the local level. What I would like to see happen, and maybe we can get together later on this, is information that's the outfall of those local roundtable discussions then makes its way back up to small firm roundtable at the national level, and then that executive committee can carry it on up and say these, and I've got two nodding heads, that's great. So that's how I really think we need to have that information flow. The other point I did want to make is with regards to the journals, they were consciously never designed as a newsletter. Reason being is they were thematic in nature. Small firm architects typically will say, okay, I've got 2 hours to solve all of my shop drawings, and then you're wearing your shop drawing hat. Okay, now that's done, go on to the next one. I got a smile too. Then, okay, you get the next 2 hours. All right, it's time to do bookkeeping and billing and that information. So we usually think in terms of those chunks or those pieces. The journal is really designed to go ahead and play on those components as well. What I'd like to see is, and please, everyone, make sure we have your contact information. If you haven't already signed up for the email list on Small Firm Roundtable, do so. Find one of the executive committee members, give us a card, put a card in the back. Somehow make sure we can get back in contact with you. With that, I think we're pretty close to being on time. One of these questions that were turned up here is specifically for insurance. So right now I am going to turn it over to Mr. Chris Rose, who is going to introduce our panel. But thank you all very much for coming. Please get involved, and this is your Small Firms Roundtable, so we'll make it better when you tell us what you need.